Hello Potato, and welcome to Weekend Magic for September the 1st, 2023. And as you can probably tell from the fact the pin board is here, it's going to be a Disney Decades video. We're looking at the latest 1980s Disney Decades collection, but since all we bought from it was the pin because we weren't interested in the Rescue Rangers ears or backpack, we're not doing the plush. As much as I liked that Dark Crystal magic band, I'm not a collector of magic bands, and I'm not going to spend $65 on that. So all we have is the pin, which means we're going to look at a few pins. We've got some D23 stuff, we've got some limited release stuff, we've got a pin that's unlike any Disney pin I've ever had before. But before that, the week. So the only really important thing I think that happened this week was they released a bunch of Marvel stuff on Thursday. They had like the Marvel Disney 100 collection, which honestly nothing really jumped out, specifically being Disney 100 from that to me. They had some like prop reproduction items. They had Tony Stark's heart. They had the time stick from Loki, and they had Spider-Man's web shooters on a neat little display stand, and at $100 a pop, with new Lego stuff coming out today, with SAC Anime being this weekend. Today's actually day 2 of SAC Anime. I wasn't having any of it. If the Tony Stark's heart thing, or maybe the Loki's time stick, hangs around long enough to go on clearance, or maybe I see them like the outlet store if I go down there again, maybe pick them up for a lower price, but not for $100. Didn't go for the Nuimos, didn't care for the clothes. There were some interesting Marvel pins this week, but there weren't any as part of that release that I noticed. And yeah, for them having like 4 separate little spaces on the coming soon area for Shop Disney, the release, for me at least, was kind of a disappointment. But aside from that, the only other thing of note this week is that, of course, SAC Anime is this weekend. If you're watching this on the day it comes out, this is day 2 of it. I will probably be there most of the day, as I was yesterday, as I likely will be tomorrow, recording stuff for next week's video. So if you want to come say hello, Potato, you're welcome to do so. I promise you, any interaction you have with me will be awkward, and it'll seem like I want to get away from you as fast as possible, because that's just how I am. It's nothing to do with you. But with that said, let's get on down to the pins. So to start with, let's look at the unique pin, the one that I haven't had quite like it before. You might think I want to save that to the end, but no, that's where the Decades pin's going to go. So yeah, it came in this little foam pouch, and it is a Disney 100 Years of Wonder lapel pin. So it is not got a Mickey back on it. Instead, it's got this kind of interesting, and maybe this is normal for lapel pins, and I've just never had a lapel pin before, but it's got this interesting kind of locking pin back, I guess to make it even harder to lose than normal. But it's very shiny, it's very small. I can certainly think of worse things to wear on your lapel than a Disney 100 pin. It's I think kind of unique. Now my wife thinks, or thought at first, it was a cufflink, and I think it's because it came from like the manufacturer on it. Is it on here? Yeah, the manufacturer's Cufflinks Inc. And I can certainly see how you could turn this with a different backing on it into a cufflink, but I'm fairly secure this is a lapel pin. 1, because there's only the one of them. 2, it doesn't have the little rotating piece on the back like a cufflink would. And 3, it said lapel pin on the website. But I would not be surprised if they do make a lapel pin version of this. But I can't get too close to the camera without it getting blurry, but we do have Mickey and Minnie 100 Years of Wonder. So I wonder if like Disney employees like were given these to wear, or executives, but they made them available for sale as well. So now we have one. I'm not sure if I want to put it on the pin board or not. There's a lot of room on the other side of the pin board for 100 pins, and we're over halfway through the year now, so we're probably not going to get that many more of them. So I don't know, maybe I'll end up there eventually. Next up, let's look at our limited release pin. It is a Star Wars pin. It's one my wife picked up because if you watch this channel at all, you know that I do drink a lot of coffee. Some tea as well, but a lot of coffee. And so she ordered me this pin of a Darth Vader coffee mug that I do believe they actually make, and I don't have and don't want, because coffee mugs take up a lot of space. Takes a lot of room to collect coffee mugs, and I already collect Lego. Don't have room for Lego and coffee mugs. But this pin reads, I like my coffee on the dark side. Which is not totally false. I mean, I do put creamer in my coffee, but I don't put a ton in there, and I do like a nice dark roast. This came out, I think, a month or so ago. It is pin on pin. The Darth Vader mug with the steam is a separate layer from the words. It's a single pin back. And yeah, it's a limited release, which of course, as I've said before, doesn't really mean much of anything, because when it comes down to it, everything's a limited release. You only make so many of them, you stop making them eventually. So unless it's a limited edition of a certain number, limited release doesn't mean a whole lot other than you maybe have a firm out date when you're going to stop making them. But still, it's a nice pin, got nicely detailed Vader mug on it, some steam to show you that it is fresh and hot and ready to energize you to take on the galaxy. Next, we move into D23 territory with D23 limited edition pins. And this first pin is one that we've actually had sitting around for a while. It was meant to be in last month's pin video, and it got shuffled and I didn't see it and it didn't end up in there, but it's here now today in this month's pin video. And that is the D23 Disney Channel pin, limited edition of 1000, celebrating 40 years of the Disney Channel. Now, of course, the Disney Channel of 40 years ago was a very, very different creature than today. Even of, 30 years ago, 25 years ago? I think it's the late 90s, the Disney Channel had its significant change. Because when I was a little kid, and I didn't have Disney Channel when I was a little kid, but back then it was like a premium channel. It was like HBO or Cinemax, minus the softcore. It had no commercials, it had a lot of original programming, it played movies all the way through. I got a little bit of that in the mid 90s, 95, 96, like a couple of years before it changed to being a commercial channel. But they would play things like original Toy Story, Robin Hood without commercials. They played those weird old Disney Channel originals. Like there was like a live action Alice in Wonderland show. There was Mousercise in the morning. It was a very, very different channel than it is today. This was before they had all the like tween sitcoms and before things like Gravity Falls and Big City Greens, which I don't think are on Disney Channel anyways. They're all on like Disney XD. But the pin is of the like classic Disney Channel logo. Remember as a kid going to Disneyland and they had, I guess it must have been fairly early in the life of the Disney Channel, because Disney Channel is younger than I am. And I remember they had in the windows of the Emporium, they had like displays up of like Mickey watching a TV with this logo on the front of it. And I really wanted it. Didn't get it. Didn't even have cable as a kid. That's how old I am. I mean, it existed. I just didn't have it. But yeah, it's a very, very glittery. It is single layer, but you have all these different layers, and there is like the black layer in between does stick up a little bit from the glittery enamel in the rest of it. It's very nice. Yeah, it's that classic Disney Channel logo, limited edition of 1000. And there is of course, the famous Mickey Mouse satellite beaming the Disney Channel signal into the homes of kids lucky enough to have it. Our second and final D23 pin is much more recent and honestly a lot larger than I thought it was going to be. And that is this here. This, I think, released around the same time as those Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap and Freaky Friday pins. This was, I think it released at the same time as one of them and like maybe a week before the other. But it is, it's Roger Rabbit. I had to get Roger Rabbit. It is the Maroon Studios Roger Rabbit pin celebrating 35 years of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's sad that we never got a follow-up to that, because it felt like this, they could have gone places with this, and it never happened. We got 3 or 4 Roger and Baby Herman cartoons on the beginning of things like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and then they just kind of abandoned it other than the ride in Toontown. The ride is still there, isn't it? I have not been to Toontown since it reopened, and I know that something had to go out for Runaway Railway to go in. But yeah, this is a giant pin. This is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. And I think it's about the same price as the Decades pin, despite being just like enormous. But it features Baby Herman, Roger Rabbit, and his loving, if complicated wife, Jessica Rabbit on the front of it. And it is surprisingly only a double pinback. I kind of would have thought there'd be a third one there, how big this is. And we do have a lovely little shot of Toontown on the back here. That's a fun movie. That's a great movie. You don't see a lot of animation and live action in general. I mean, there's Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Mary Poppins have their sequences. But Roger Rabbit, I think, is about the only, I'm gonna hot take here, good movie that does it throughout. I know we had like a year later, we had, what was that one? The character's name was Hollywood, like Cool World. I think it was Cool World. That came out like a year later that tried to be like even more mature version of Roger Rabbit. And yeah, when's the last time you thought about Cool World? I remember there was a video game for it, and I remember the tagline on like the poster was Hollywood if she could, which I don't remember what that meant, but I feel like it's meant to be an entendre. But this pin is really like impressive. It's, single layer, but there's a fair amount of detail in there. I feel like Jessica is missing a little detail, honestly. But Roger and Baby Herman look quite good. Got the Maroon Studios logo looking kind of like Looney Tunes. And yeah, this is just like I think a really nice pin. And finally, we have our 1980s Disney Decade pin, because this came out in, 89, right? So just barely in the 80s. I mean, I kind of associate it with the 90s, I think, because it's something that I would watch a lot on VHS. I have like a stack of VHS cassettes that I would like cycle through when there's nothing good on TV on the weekends. It was this, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, I think Ghostbusters 2 specifically for some reason, not the original, but the second one. I think Short Circuit 2 may have been in there. I'm trying to remember what all was there. And I don't remember, and there's no point in remembering. It just shows that middle school me had a dodgy movie tastes. So yep, this is the 1980s Disney Decades pin. That's you may have noticed that I moved the pins on the board finally, swapped them around to the side, so there is nicely room for 4 more pins on that wider, shorter side that I wouldn't be able to fit into the taller side. Plus, again, we don't have that many other 100 pins. They don't need as much space. I kind of thought we'd get more. So last month, I know I commented that the Elliott pin set had deviated from the packaging style of the rest of the pins in the Decade series. They had all come, well, like this, on a folded up card with words, presumably in the middle. This one's still a little different. The other ones all had a piece of foam in the middle and the pin backs in there with the foam, so you could actually like look at the words without taking the pin off the pin back, like I'm gonna have to do now, but I'm putting it on the board anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Let's look at the other words. There are words. Are there words for Roger Rabbit? There are words for Roger Rabbit. Let's read the Roger Rabbit words. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Shave and a haircut, 2 bits. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a live-action animated film which was released on June 22nd, 1988. When cartoon star Roger Rabbit is suspected of the murder of Marvin Acme, head of Acme Corporation and owner of Toontown, a jaded private eye, Eddie Valiant, is called in to investigate. On his journey, Eddie realizes the importance of laughing through the hardship and letting go of the past. The film won 4 Academy Awards for film editing, sound effects editing, visual effects, and Special Achievement Award in animation direction. So 88, not 89, 88. I thought it came out in 89. Probably because for some reason I keep thinking this year is 2024. I don't know why. So this pin was, I believe, $34.99, and I mean, size-wise, I feel like maybe it's not totally worth $35. It's not a huge pin, but it is what it is. It is a double layered pin. Now, it doesn't open or anything as far as I can tell. But what we have here is this layer of like silver in the back there, or gray, I guess. It really is more just gray. to give the impression of Roger bursting through a wall. So we have just this backing layer, which I'm guessing has the silver gray on it. We have a front layer with Roger, and some of the little bricks here, just to give it a little extra depth, are that kind of rubbery material like Horace Horsecollar's collar was made out of. So it's a very nice pin. I don't know if it's a $35 pin, but then again, I kind of feel like most everything in the Decades collection is maybe $10 more than it really should be. I'm especially looking at you, Magic Band. But comparing the art style, also we've given Roger some like kind of blue eyes, I think, to make the pupils there pop a little bit. Because we don't have that over in the Maroon Studios pins. We've got white eyes over there. And honestly, it really does make a difference in the character, but I think that's probably more screen accurate. But it's a nice pin. I mean, it would be nice to see Disney do something more with Roger, bring him back, do some new cartoons. Maybe, you know, what's Roger been up to? I'm assuming Roger would still be alive. I mean, toons don't grow old and die, right? So I'm assuming Roger is still alive and kicking in modern day. Was he in the Rescue Rangers movie? I feel like that would have been a really smart placement to me. I didn't watch it. I still haven't watched it. I need to watch it at some point. But I know they did a lot of cameo stuff in there, and it feels like that would have been a like really natural place for Roger to show up, since it was based on that same kind of idea that toons exist in the real world. I may have to watch that at some point, or at least rewatch Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's a nice pin, and it is number 7 in the collection. There are 3 more to go, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and then we will be done with this series. But let's put Roger up on the board. Okay, so we have plenty of real estate for Roger, so we'll stick him right there under Ludwig von Drake. And that leaves us room for the 90s, 2000s, and the 2010s down there, depending on what size they are. Of course, as you can see, they have stuck to no method of form for this collection. We've got double pins, triple pins, pins with stuff sticking off of them, pins that convert to stand-ups, pins with movable bits, pins that are hinged. They've it would be kind of cool if they put like thought into making the pins look like things from those decades as well, kind of like they had done with the toys for the first 3 months and then seemingly totally abandoned. But that does wrap us up for this week. You may have noticed I have the Haunted Mansion runner out on the table. Stand up. That's because it's September now. As far as I'm concerned, it's officially spooky season. I mean, all the spirit stores are open. All the stores are getting their Halloween stuff in. And the Happy Haunt Hunt does continue. Probably go back to that next week. We have at least a couple videos worth of stuff that we've picked up since last time we talked about the Haunted Mansion. And I think it's some good stuff. But that does wrap up this video. What do you think of this week's pins? What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? What is your opinion of the Roger Rabbit Decades pin and the Decades collection in general? And did you buy any of the other Decades stuff from the 80s? Did you buy the backpack or the ears? Did you shell out $65 for that Magic Band? I'm no shame if you did. It's got Horned King on it, and you don't see a lot of Horned King merchandise. So definitely no shame if you did. But that does wrap this video up. I hope you found it at all interesting or entertaining. If you did, go ahead, give it a like, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.